Have you ever felt like your own words turned against you? Like every sentence you spoke was just another stone thrown at your own roof? More often than not, it's not the world making our lives harder. It's us, when we speak without restraint. The Stoics understood this well. There are moments when silence is more powerful than any argument. Staying silent isn't weakness. It's choosing not to waste your energy on what doesn't deserve it. In this video, you're going to discover 10 situations where silence can be your greatest strategy for transformation. This isn't about speaking less out of fear. It's about speaking better, with intention, and letting your life speak louder than your words. Before we dive in, be honest with yourself. How many times have you said too much and later regretted it? If you've ever felt that weight, this video is for you. Subscribe and become an exclusive member to keep learning how to live with more calm and purpose. If you're ready to start embracing the power of silence, write in the comments, Stoic at heart. Today, I stay quiet, I listen, and I transform. Are you ready? Let's begin. 1. Don't talk about your plans. Show them. Tell me if this sounds familiar. You talk about what you're going to do, all the projects you have in mind, everything that's coming up in your life. And in the end, you don't do any of it. You get excited just talking about it. People listen, nod, say, great idea, and in that moment you already feel like you've achieved something. But a few days later, nothing's changed. Your plans vanish into thin air, like smoke that fades away. That's the trap of talking too much, confusing saying it with actually doing it. Every time you announce what you're going to do, you trick your mind. It's like having a helium balloon. You let it go, everyone watches it float for a while. Then it deflates and disappears, don't you see? By talking so much about your plans, you're weakening them before you even start. You know who didn't fall into that trap? The Stoics, of course. For them, words without action were just noise. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the true measure of a man is what he does, not what he promises. And Seneca criticized those who filled their lives with speeches while their results stayed empty. Do you see it now? They understood that talking about virtues without practicing them is the same as talking about projects without taking action. Self-deception. I'm sure you know someone like this, the type who always says they're going to start at the gym on Monday, or they're about to launch a business, or they're going to quit a bad habit. But the only thing they ever start is the same speech, over and over. And if you're honest with yourself, that someone might be you. Maybe you've spent months talking about what you're going to do, chasing applause while deep down, you know nothing's really changing. You know what hurts the most about that? Every time you don't follow through, you lose trust in yourself. You sink a little more, because you become someone who talks a lot and does very little. And there's something even worse. When you talk too much about your plans, you give people a kind of power they shouldn't have. They start to weigh in, criticize, question you, even hope you fail. And every comment becomes another stone in your backpack. You see, you opened the door yourself. If you had stayed quiet and worked in peace, none of that could affect you. The Stoics taught the exact opposite. Keep quiet, listen more, and turn your plans into actions. Epictetus put it clearly, don't explain what you're going to do, show it. Because the moment you start talking, you're already giving away your energy. The more you share, the more strength you lose. Strength that should go into building, not explaining. Seneca wrote that the greatest power is self-control. And it applies here too. Control the urge to talk before you act. You don't need to announce your next step. You need to take it. You don't need outside approval. You need results. Let me tell you something, my friend. Every word you spend talking about a plan is energy you're taking away from the action itself. And over time, people start seeing you as someone who always talks but never follows through. That weighs you down more than you think. So, change the strategy. Stop treating every idea like it deserves a round of applause just for existing. Shut the faucet of words. When someone asks you, hey, what about that project? Don't launch into the usual speech. Just say, you'll see it when it's ready, and get back to work. Example, if you're going back to the gym, don't announce your schedule or your routine. Just show up, train for 30 minutes, and leave. No selfies, no stories. Get clear on what you want without talking about it. One sheet of paper, 3 lines, what you want to do, by when, and one micro step you can take today in 15 minutes. If it's start a business, the micro step isn't look for investors. It's call 3 potential clients and listen to what they need. Make a silent pact with yourself. You'll only speak once you have some real evidence. If you're writing a book, don't share the plot. Write 2 pages a day for a week. Once you've got 14 pages, then maybe show them to one trusted person. No, not your entire WhatsApp group. My friend, talking about your plans won't transform you. Carrying them out in silence will. When you stop talking so much, when you listen more and act without needing to announce it, you become someone else. Someone who doesn't get lost in the noise, but is transformed by their actions. 2. Worthless criticism, powerful silence. Imagine someone throws a harsh, unfair, venom-filled criticism at you. The first thing you feel is the urge to answer right away, to shout that they have no idea, to prove they're wrong about you. That rush to defend yourself is like a fire that starts in your chest and climbs to your throat. But what if, instead of fueling the fire, you chose to put it out with silence? The Stoics faced this dilemma every day. They didn't live in some ideal world of calm. They lived in an empire full of tension, envy, and accusations. Marcus Aurelius, as emperor, had thousands of people constantly questioning his decisions. And yet, he wrote in his meditations, "The best way to defend yourself is not to be like your attacker." That means, when faced with an unfair criticism, your strength isn't in shouting louder. It's in showing through your actions that you're not a slave to someone else's words. Picture a common scene. You're at a family dinner and suddenly someone throws out a stinging comment. Of course, you always think you know everything. The air gets tense. Your instinct is to fire back with a sharp reply to put them in their place. But if you choose silence, if you pause and simply breathe, something different happens. The other person runs out of fuel. Their attack fades into the air, and everyone sees who stirred the conflict and who stayed calm. Seneca reflected on this in one of his letters. He wrote, "What is said in anger will be heard with difficulty. If you answer instantly, driven by emotion, your words lose their strength and your dignity starts to erode. On the other hand, if you choose silence, your actions and consistency end up speaking louder than any argument." Let me tell you about another situation. A woman named Julia worked at a hospital. She had been giving her all for months during endless shifts. One day, after tending to dozens of patients, her boss accused her, publicly, of forgetting a procedure. She knew it wasn't true. Her blood boiled. She wanted to yell and prove him wrong. But she stayed silent. That night, she reviewed the records and confirmed she had done everything right. The next morning, she placed the documents on her boss's desk. He had no choice but to admit his mistake. Julia realized something essential. Sometimes silence not only protects your peace, it gives more weight to the truth when it finally comes to light. Silence, my friend, is not retreat. It's power. Because when you don't respond to an immediate attack, you regain something the other person has already lost: control over yourself. Now, how do you apply this in your life? You don't need to turn every criticism into a battlefield. Sometimes a small gesture is enough. Take a deep breath, sip some water, or even pause and look away. That brief moment breaks the automatic reaction and brings you back to calm. Another powerful move is to turn the question toward yourself. Does this criticism really reflect who I am? Or is it revealing more about the frustration of the person who said it? You'd be surprised how often the comment says more about them than it does about you. And the most freeing realization is this: you don't always have to respond. Silence, when held with calm and confidence, becomes the strongest reply of all. Because it doesn't drain you, it doesn't drag you down into the same mud, and it shows others that you have a kind of control very few people possess. Marcus Aurelius lived surrounded by betrayal in the Roman court. Still, he never wasted his time replying to every insult. His life was his argument, and that's the lesson we can take today. People will always talk, but what really matters is how you choose to live, not what you choose to say. Next time someone criticizes you unfairly, remember this image. An archer shoots arrows at a rock. The arrows shatter, but the rock stays solid. That's the power of silence. Not wearing yourself out with every attack, but staying grounded in your own worth. If you can do that, you'll discover something surprising. Silence not only protects you from conflict, it elevates you. It lifts you above the noise. And little by little, it shapes your reputation. Because people remember the one who kept calm more than the one who reacted like everyone else. Here's a simple challenge. The next time someone attacks you with an unfair criticism, choose to stay quiet for just a few seconds before saying anything. That short pause could be the difference between falling into the emotional trap or rising above it with greater strength. 3. Silence your complaints. Listen to your solutions. Are you one of those people who spends the day saying you're tired but still goes to bed after 1 in the morning? Or someone who keeps saying there's never enough time, yet scrolls endlessly on your phone for hours? Maybe you also complain about never saving money, but can't let go of your daily $4 coffee. Tell me, have you noticed that the more you talk about it, the less you change it? That's exactly what the Stoics avoided, filling their days with complaints instead of actions. Silence was their way of cutting through the noise. Complaining is like an empty drum. It makes noise, it echoes, but it never creates music. And the more you talk about how bad things are, the more mental space you give to staying exactly the same. It's like running on a hamster wheel, burning energy, but going nowhere. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Stop debating what a good man should be. Just be one." The same goes for you. Stop repeating how bad your life is and start changing it. Because complaining without action isn't reflection, it's just noise. The real danger of complaining isn't just that it drains you, it makes you lose credibility with yourself. Every time you say, "Tomorrow I'll be more organized," and you don't follow through, you take another step away from trusting yourself. And self-trust, my friend, is the foundation of any transformation. Repeating your complaints over and over literally carves those negative pathways deeper into your brain. The more you say it, the more your mind looks for proof that things are bad. Eventually, you turn yourself into your own victim. Let me ask you this. What good does it do to say 10 times a day that you're exhausted? Or to keep repeating that you're always broke? Or to tell everyone you hate your job? Saying it louder doesn't change anything. The only thing it does is drain you and fill others with your noise. Now imagine Epictetus today, listening to someone saying, "I'm fed up with my boss, my life's a mess, no one understands me." You know what he'd probably say? He'd laugh a little and reply, "Of all that, the only thing you control is what you choose to do. Let the rest go," and he'd be right. So what can you do the next time you feel the urge to complain bubbling up? Try something different. Pause for a second and listen to the question hiding underneath. Instead of saying, "I'm tired," ask yourself, "What can I do tonight to sleep better?" If your problem is money, change the thought to, "What can I cut back on today?" If you hate your job, don't repeat it 1,000 times. Ask, "What small step can I take to change it?" Here's another trick. Limit how many times you can complain about the same thing. Do it once to let it out. But after that, silence. If it comes up again, let it come out as action. Seneca said, "We don't dare to do many things because they are difficult, but they are difficult because we don't dare to do them." Complaining is just that, an excuse not to try. Here's a practical challenge. Next time you catch yourself repeating the same complaint, write it down. Then, underneath it, write at least one action you could take to ease it. If you can't think of any, tear up the paper and let it go. In that moment, silence is worth more than any explanation. And don't get me wrong, this isn't about repressing what you feel. The Stoics never said you couldn't express pain or fatigue. They spoke about not wallowing in it, about not letting it become your identity. There's a huge difference between saying, "I'm tired today," and spending the whole week building a shrine to your exhaustion. Sometimes a touch of humor helps make it clear. Complaining about the same thing every day is like putting the same song on repeat on Spotify, even though you hate it. Nobody wants to hear it anymore, not even you. And yet there you are, pressing play again. Wouldn't it be better to hit stop and try a different tune? Silence in the face of complaining gives you power. It lets you hear solutions instead of repeating problems. And with time, others start to notice it too. People begin to see you as someone who takes action, not someone who just talks about how bad everything is. That shift in perception, trust me, is worth gold. So my friend, next time you feel yourself about to open your mouth and repeat the same old complaint, pause for a second. Listen. Ask yourself if you really want to keep spinning in that wheel, or if you're ready to step off and walk in a new direction. Transformation starts there, in silencing the complaint and hearing the solution. Because when you stop talking so much about what's wrong and start focusing on building what could go right, your life begins to change. That's the kind of silence that doesn't bring you down, it lifts you up. 4. The silence of your achievements. Your achievements are like glowing embers. If you blow on them too soon to show them off, they go out. But if you protect them in silence, they turn into a fire that lights your path. Seneca said it plainly. Virtue needs no witnesses. And he wasn't just talking about morality, he meant all of life. If what you're doing has value, there's no need to shout about it. Sooner or later it will show. The problem is, today we live in reverse. The moment we accomplish something, we rush to share it. Finished your first week at the gym? Photo on social media? Studied 2 hours straight? Message to the group chat? Quit smoking for 3 days? You're already announcing it to everyone. And what happens next? Your brain, once it gets applause, relaxes. It feels like the job is done, even though you've barely begun. Psychology has proven this. Peter Gallwitzer from New York University discovered that talking about your goals and receiving recognition activates the same part of the brain as actually achieving them. And here's the trap. By talking about it, you sabotage yourself. You lose real motivation, and your achievement ends up half-finished. Sound familiar? How many times have you announced something with excitement, only to watch it fade a month later? It's like blowing up a balloon and letting it go. It floats for a second, makes a little noise, and deflates. The Stoics would have raised an eyebrow at all this, because showing off your achievements too soon is like celebrating that you built the IKEA furniture when there's still a screw sitting on the table. Better to finish, make sure it holds, and then, if you want, invite someone to see it. And I'm not just talking about social media. Think about your daily life. Have you caught yourself listing every little win, hoping for approval? You finish a 1-week diet and celebrate like you've won a championship. But the more you talk about it, the more energy you lose to keep going. Silence, on the other hand, gives you strength to continue. Look at what Greta Thunberg did. She didn't start her movement with grand speeches. She started with a silent action, sitting alone with a sign in front of the Swedish parliament. Her silence became impossible to ignore. That's the power of keeping your achievements quiet. They become results that speak louder than any words. And here comes something you may not want to hear. Every time you talk too much about your wins, you open the door to criticism and judgment. Not everyone wants to see you grow. By announcing what you've done, you give power to those who are just waiting to see you fall. But if you choose silence, you move forward, protected, focused, unbothered. So what about you? Do you want quick likes or lasting results? If what you really want is transformation, the key is to build in silence. Let me suggest something. The next time you achieve a small win, keep it to yourself. Savor it quietly. That quiet satisfaction? It's pure fuel. You can also choose who you share it with. Not everyone, just someone who pushes you to keep going. Someone who doesn't get impressed by words, but by what you actually do. And here's something else. Turn each achievement into the base of your next step. If you read a book this month, don't post a picture of the final page. Start the next one in silence. If you saved €100, don't rush to tell people. Use it to invest in your next goal. That way, your achievements stop being trophies and become stepping stones. Epictetus would agree. He said, "Do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Welcome them in the way they happen, and you will be happy." This applies here too. Don't force your achievements into someone else's expectations. Let them be, enjoy them in silence, and keep going. The silence of your achievements doesn't mean you can't celebrate. It means you don't need to prove anything with words. The real celebration is in continuing to grow. And over time, you won't need to tell people what you've accomplished. They'll see it. My friend, talk less about your victories and listen more to what's still left to do. Every achievement kept in silence becomes a seed that grows stronger. And one day, when your life has truly changed, you won't need to explain it. The world will see it without you saying a word. That's the transformation you're after. 5. Listen instead of competing. You've probably been in one of those conversations that feels more like a trophy contest than a real dialogue. One person brags about their new car, another jumps in to say their trip was more expensive, and a third tries to win the gold medal with a story that sounds almost made up. You smile politely, but inside you're thinking, do we really need all this noise? Few things are more exhausting than being surrounded by someone else's ego. The Stoics knew that the best way to disarm excessive pride wasn't to compete with it, but to stay grounded in humility. Epictetus put it with brutal clarity. If someone boasts about their achievements, think of what they had to endure to get them. If the result is admirable, what about the long nights no one saw? That perspective changes everything. The person showing off only reveals the surface, but you can choose to see deeper. Picture a work meeting. Everyone is sharing ideas, but one colleague keeps interrupting to remind everyone how much he's accomplished on his own. Your first instinct might be one of two: either to compete by listing your own wins to even the playing field, or to check out and roll your eyes in silence. But silence itself offers a third way. Instead of wasting your energy trying to keep up, you choose not to feed the game. You stay calm, you listen, and you let time reveal who truly contributes and who's just making noise. And this is how you begin to transform. Modern psychology backs this up. Researchers like Roy Baumeister have shown that people with inflated egos tend to be impulsive and often self-destructive. Behind the bragging, there's usually insecurity dressed up in words. Like an overinflated balloon, it looks big, but one small poke, and it deflates instantly. And now, I want to speak directly to you, my friend. Because maybe other people's egos annoy you, but the real danger comes when your own starts speaking too much. You don't need to tell everything. You don't have to prove anything with words. Let your actions speak for you. When you stop competing with other people's egos, you free yourself to grow in your own way. These are the phrases you need to remember whenever you feel that urge to show off or play the comparison game. Marcus Aurelius learned this in his own life, surrounded by flatterers and rivals. In Meditations, he wrote, "Self-glory depends on the opinions of others, but real worth stands on what you truly are." When we read that today, we can understand. If you depend on external validation, you become a slave to noise. But when you choose silence, you gain the freedom to live for yourself, not for applause. So the next time someone starts showing off in front of you, remember, you don't have to compete. Breathe, stay quiet, and think. True respect isn't earned with words, it's built through consistency. And when it's you who feels tempted to speak just to impress, remind yourself, today, I don't need to prove anything. That moment, that's where transformation begins. Silence in the face of someone else's ego isn't indifference, it's maturity. And the more you practice it, the more you'll realize your life speaks louder when your words are reduced to what truly matters. Now I want to hear from you. In what kind of situation is it hardest for you to stay silent in the face of someone else's ego? Share it in the comments. Your experience could help someone else in this community going through the same thing. And if you'd rather keep it simple, write the phrase, "My silence is worth more than ego." That way I'll know you've made the choice to stop competing with the noise and start transforming from within. 6. Don't turn your anger into words. Let me tell you an uncomfortable truth. Most of our biggest problems don't come from anger itself, but from the words we throw out when we're angry. Because yes, feeling rage is human. But opening your mouth in the middle of that fire, that's like pouring gasoline on the flames and then wondering why everything burned down. Silence in those moments isn't repression, it's strategy. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." And here's the interesting part. When you explode, who do you resemble? Exactly, the one who made you angry. When you choose silence, you step away. You stop being part of the problem and start becoming part of the solution. You've seen it before. A couple arguing over something small, like who forgot to put the toilet seat down. The one who snaps starts pulling out complaints from 10 years ago. It's always the same with you. You never change. What started as a tiny issue suddenly turns into World War III, all because no one knew when to shut up. If just one of them had taken a breath, stayed silent, and waited to cool down, that absurd argument would have ended in under a minute. Want another example? Traffic. The ultimate lab for anger. Someone cuts you off and you instantly feel like insulting their entire family. And what do you get from yelling in the car? Exactly nothing. Well, maybe a sore throat, and you're still stuck in traffic. Silence here doesn't make you weak. It makes you the one in control. Because while the other person is drowning in their anger, you keep moving forward without giving them a single drop of your energy. So how do you use this power of silence? Here are a few ideas, not as generic tips, but as mental tattoos. First, I don't need to speak to prove I'm right. Think about it. When you insist on having the last word, all you're showing is that the argument already controls you. Second, the one who stays silent gains time. That tiny gap between feeling and reacting can be the difference between an endless conflict and a simple misunderstanding. And third, my calm is more valuable than any scream. Because when you choose silence, you don't lose, you win. Seneca had a crystal clear view on this. In one of his letters, he wrote, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." He didn't say punch a pillow or count to 10. He said delay. That means hold back your reaction, stay quiet, and give your mind the time your anger refuses to. And come on, let's be honest. How many times have you gotten furious over something stupid, and then hours later thought, did I really get that mad over that? It's like wanting to burn the whole house down because someone left the bathroom light on. Ridiculous, right? But that's exactly what we do when we explode with unnecessary words. Silence also protects your health. I'm not saying this as a doctor, but as someone who's seen it. Living in constant outbursts wears you down more than any marathon. Lingering anger raises your blood pressure, messes with your sleep, and leaves you in a state of permanent exhaustion. Staying silent in those moments doesn't just save your relationships, it saves your body. When you stay silent in the heat of anger, you realize something powerful. The other person doesn't have control over you. Because here's the truth, if anyone can push a button and make you explode, then you're not free. You're a puppet with an external switch. Silence breaks that cycle. It reminds you that only you decide when to speak and when not to. So next time someone provokes you, try this. Don't react right away. Take a breath, stay silent, and think, I'm not giving this moment control over my life. That single second of silence could be your biggest victory. My friend, mastering anger doesn't mean swallowing it or pretending it's not there. It means not giving it the advantage of slipping out through your mouth. Every word you throw in the heat of the moment is power you lose. But when you choose to stay quiet, listen inward, and let silence guide you, you start to transform. Because that's where the magic happens. Instead of saying too much, you start hearing what really matters. And that gives you a level of control few people ever reach. Silence isn't emptiness. It's the path that lets you stop reacting like everyone else and start living like someone who's truly in command of their life. 7. Let time do the talking. Have you ever felt like someone talks so much that instead of having a conversation, they're slowly wrapping you up? Like every sentence they say isn't meant to understand you, but to trap you, bit by bit. It could be a friend who always criticizes others, a family member who uses guilt as a weapon, or even a partner who turns every word into a reminder that without them you're nothing. The danger is, at first, you don't even notice. You respond, you explain, you play along. And when you finally realize it, you're already caught in a web that's hard to escape. Emotional manipulation works like this. Every word is a thread. The more you talk, the more you explain, the more tangled you become. And that's where silence becomes your only way out. Because when you stop responding, the manipulator loses their fuel. A spider with no prey caught in its web has no power. The Stoics understood this. They couldn't control what others said or did, but they could choose how to respond. Seneca said it plainly. The greatest power is self-control. And if you apply that here, it means your strength isn't in convincing a manipulator to change. It's in choosing not to hand over your emotions. Epictetus literally lived under the authority of a master, yet he never let that take away the freedom of his mind. If someone who didn't even control his own body could protect his inner world, why wouldn't you be able to protect yourself from someone who only has words? Think about it. How many times have you argued with someone like that and felt like you never won? That's normal, because that person isn't looking for solutions, they're looking for control. And arguing with someone who only wants to dominate is like playing chess with someone who moves the pieces however they want. No matter your strategy, you'll always lose. It's like an old fable grandparents used to tell. Do you know it? A bird flies freely over a field. A snake watches from below and starts whispering, "Your wings are useless. The sky is dangerous, stay down here with me." If the bird listens too long, it starts to doubt. And when it doubts, it comes down and gets caught. But if, instead of listening, it keeps flying in silence, no words can stop it. That's manipulation. Poison that enters through the ears, not the skin. You've likely lived this in real life. That friend who constantly feeds you criticism about others. It starts small, with seemingly harmless comments, and before you know it, you've distanced yourself from people who never actually did anything to you. Why? Because you talked too much, you played along, you responded to every doubt they planted. The way out is silence. Stop giving them space in your mind. Stop responding to what's coming from outside, and start listening to what you already know inside. And now tell me, what do you think happens in a manipulator's mind when you choose silence? Exactly. They get thrown off. They're expecting your reaction, your defense, your justification, and they get nothing. Silence knocks the script right out of their hands. It's like pulling the stage out from under their feet. That's where silence becomes your best strategy. First, it gives you a strategic pause. Instead of reacting with anger or guilt, you give yourself time to see clearly what's really happening. Second, it creates emotional space. You don't absorb what they throw at you, you let it bounce off. And third, it creates confusion. The manipulator feeds on your responses, and when they don't get one, they lose interest or power. Of course, it's not easy. Silence in these situations can feel uncomfortable. You might even feel guilty for not answering. But that's part of the trap. The manipulator wants you to feel that discomfort. Getting past it is part of your transformation. Sometimes humor helps make things clearer. Responding to a manipulator is like sending a long, angry WhatsApp message. You send it, thinking it's perfect, and a minute later, you already regret it. Silence, on the other hand, is like saving the message in drafts. You give yourself time, you give yourself space, and in the end, you realize the best move was never sending it. And if you look closely, silence isn't just a defense, it's freedom. Because every time you choose not to speak to a manipulator, you break one thread of their web. And eventually, you realize you're no longer stuck. You've regained your balance and your freedom. So remember the lesson. Manipulators can talk endlessly, but they can't force you to listen. Your silence is your boundary. It's how you say, "This is where it stops." And the most powerful part? In that silence, you don't just shut them down. You finally hear yourself. You discover what you want, what you need, and what you're no longer willing to tolerate. My friend, emotional manipulation feeds on your words. If you stop talking so much and learn to listen clearly, you begin to transform, because you stop being someone else's puppet and start becoming the master of your own emotions. 8. Stay silent when ignorance shouts. Ignorance is like an empty echo. The louder it gets, the more it reveals how hollow it really is. You've surely experienced it. That person who won't stop talking, who has an opinion about everything with overwhelming confidence, yet clearly doesn't know what they're talking about. And the strange part, the less they know, the more they need to prove something, as if words were just a disguise to cover what isn't really there. Now tell me, how many times have you argued with someone like that? How many times have you spent energy on explanations, facts, arguments, only to walk away exhausted, frustrated, and having convinced no one? That's the trap. Arguing with ignorance is stepping into a loop with no way out. That's why silence is often the smartest response. The Stoics understood this well. Epictetus summed it up in a line that still holds pure gold today. It's not what happens to you, but how you respond that matters. And when faced with ignorance, what matters isn't the other person's noise, but your reaction. Because if you respond with anger, you lower yourself. If you respond with endless words, they pull you into their game. But if you choose silence, you rise above the noise. Marcus Aurelius also made it clear in his reflections: don't waste your time on what you can't control. And what's less controllable than the mind of someone who refuses to learn? When someone has decided to stay closed, it doesn't matter how much proof you lay on the table. They won't open their eyes until they choose to. So is it really worth spending your energy? Think about a family gathering. There's always someone who talks politics, economics, or science as if they hold the absolute truth. You know what they're saying makes no sense, but if you join the debate, you become part of the show. In the end, everyone's yelling, no one's listening, and the ignorant person walks away satisfied with the noise they caused. The only one who remains at peace is the one who chose to stay quiet. That silence, far from being weakness, is the sign that you didn't take the bait. Let me tell you a short fable. A group of men were arguing in a public square about who was the wisest. Each shouted louder than the other, convinced they were right. An old man watched them in silence from a bench. The day passed, night fell, and the men kept arguing. When they finally left, drained and still unresolved, someone asked the old man why he never spoke. He replied, "You don't outshout an echo, you silence it." That's the lesson. Some battles are won by never entering them. Haven't you felt it? That sensation after arguing with someone ignorant, like you just wasted your time. That's because you did. And that energy could have been used on something that actually matters. Learning, growing, building. That's another Stoic teaching. Wisdom begins when you accept your own limitations. Admitting you don't know everything protects you from becoming exactly what you criticize. In that sense, silence is also humility. Let me ask you an uncomfortable question. Have you ever been the ignorant one? Of course, you have. We all have. We've all given opinions without knowing enough, defended ideas arrogantly just to avoid admitting we didn't have the answer. Owning up to that is also wisdom. In those moments, silence isn't a wall. It's a bridge to learning. Now let's make it practical. Staying silent in the face of ignorance doesn't mean you look the other way every time. Sometimes you will need to speak, but not in the heat of the moment, not in the noise. Choosing your battles is essential. Ask yourself, is it worth it? Does this person want to listen or just wants to win? If it's the second one, save your breath. Use your energy where it will actually matter. Silence also acts like a mirror. Let the ignorant speak. The more they talk, the clearer their emptiness becomes. You don't need to expose them, they expose themselves. And in the end, respect falls on the one who kept their composure. And really, arguing with someone who doesn't know but thinks they do is like fighting with your car's GPS. Even if it's taking you the wrong way, it'll keep saying, recalculating, recalculating, forever. Why get angry? It's wiser to stay quiet and take the right route yourself. Most importantly, let your actions speak for you. When you know something, you don't need to prove it in every conversation. Your results are the most solid proof you can give. Ignorance makes noise. Wisdom is proven in silence. In the end, when faced with ignorance, silence isn't weakness, it's strength. It's the conscious decision not to waste your words on an echo that will never become a conversation. It's the choice to save your energy for what truly matters. My friend, transformation begins when you understand this. You don't need to win every argument. You don't need to correct every mistake. When you stop talking so much and learn to listen, to others, yes, but mostly to yourself and to silence, you find your true power. Because wisdom isn't measured by how much you say, but by the calm with which you choose not to say anything, where your words won't make a difference. 9. The silence that embraces loss. How do you find peace when you lose someone you love? What do you do with that emptiness that feels like it swallows everything else? You've probably asked yourself, how do you keep going when what you loved most is no longer here? Most of the time we go looking for answers in words. We want explanations to calm us down, advice that puts life back in place. But what we discover is, no phrase fills that void. It's like trying to stop a storm with paper umbrellas. Grief doesn't respond to speeches. Grief needs silence. Not the kind of silence that avoids or denies, but one that allows you to feel what's really happening. A silence that stays with you when the noise of others only makes the emptiness feel bigger. The Stoics saw it differently. For them, death and loss weren't extraordinary tragedies. They were natural, inevitable parts of life. Marcus Aurelius put it simply and harshly in his Meditations. It is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live. And really, doesn't that shift everything? Because yes, loss hurts. But it hurts because there was life, because there was love. That pain is the proof that what you had was real and meaningful. Epictetus also spoke of loss with a kind of coldness that feels uncomfortable at first, but then makes sense. He said that when you kiss your child goodnight, when you hug someone you love, remember that they are human and that life is never guaranteed. Cruel, no, real. And if you think about it, it's not to love less, but to love better. Because when you know everything is fragile, you live each moment with more presence. Silence in grief isn't hostile emptiness, it's fertile ground, like a field after a storm. At first, all you see is mud and destruction. But in that soaked soil, new seeds begin to grow. If you fill that space with noise, you don't give nature a chance to do its work. But if you stay quiet, little by little, transformation begins. Look at how we usually react. We lose someone, and suddenly we're surrounded by cliches. You have to be strong. Time heals everything. Try not to think about it. Sound familiar? But those words don't help. Sometimes they even hurt more, because they make you feel like you're supposed to rush through something that actually needs time. The Stoics offered a different path. Don't dodge the wound. Face it. Don't try to explain it. Accept it. And to accept it, you need silence. The kind of silence that feels heavy at first, but over time becomes the only place where real healing happens. And tell me, how many times have you felt that silence hurts more than any word? How many times have you tried to fill it with distractions, with conversations that go nowhere, just to avoid feeling? But what happens when you choose to stay in that silence? What first feels unbearable eventually becomes the doorway to acceptance. Writer C.S. Lewis went through this when he lost his wife. He described his grief as an empty house where there used to be warmth. Now there was only echo. But he didn't try to drown out that echo with noise. He listened to it, he accepted it, he made it part of his transformation. That echo became his way of remembering that the pain was proof of the love he'd lived. And here's the most important thing. Silence in grief doesn't mean forgetting. It means accepting that pain is part of love, that what you lost isn't erased. It becomes part of who you are. Every tear held in silence is a quiet reminder that what you had was real and deep. Don't fool yourself. Living in silence during grief isn't easy. Sometimes it feels like staying quiet is just sinking deeper, but in reality, that silence is what allows you to rise. Because only when you stop talking so much, when you stop chasing distractions, can you start hearing what your heart is truly saying. And that's where the transformation begins. It's not about getting over the loss. It's about learning to walk with it. Silence is not your enemy. It's your refuge. It gives you time to breathe, to feel, to accept. It reminds you that even though life has changed, you can still live with purpose. That even though someone is gone, what they meant to you lives on in every choice you make. So in the middle of grief, stop talking so much. Don't search for answers in endless explanations or in words of comfort that never quite land. Listen to the silence, because that's where your transformation begins. 10. Stay silent in the face of injustice. Picture this: an entire people subdued by the power of an empire, treated as if their voices meant nothing. For years, Indians lived under the laws and abuses of British rule. Out of that reality rose Gandhi, a small, seemingly fragile man, with a determination that would reshape history. He could have chosen to shout, to fight back with violence or confrontation, but he chose something else: strategic silence. His resistance was peaceful, based not on hate or noise, but on the calm of someone who knows that truth doesn't need to scream to be heard. When he was unjustly arrested, he didn't launch into angry speeches or let fury take over. He stayed silent, walked calmly to prison, and let his actions speak for him. That silence wasn't submission, it was his most powerful weapon. And the incredible thing is, without raising his voice, the entire world heard him. Because when you choose silence in the face of injustice, what seems like weakness becomes a powerful act others can't ignore. The Stoics, centuries earlier, had already reflected on this, not in theory, but in real lives facing real injustice. Seneca is a striking example. Accused of plotting against Nero, he was sentenced to take his own life without any solid proof. He had 1,000 reasons to shout, to curse, to cry out for justice, but he chose serenity. He opened his veins in silence, surrounded by his students, and accepted his death with dignity. Not because he was guilty, but because he knew that virtue doesn't depend on the words of a tyrant. That silence wasn't resignation. It was proof that even in the face of injustice, you can hold on to your self-control. So what does this mean for us today? That in the face of injustice, silence is not surrender. It's strategy. Think of injustice as a fire. When you react in the heat of the moment, when you shout and give in to rage, all you're doing is feeding the flames. The fire spreads and ends up consuming everything, including you. But when you choose silence, when you take away its oxygen, the fire weakens. Silence is that pause that gives you time to think. How can I put this out without burning myself? You've probably experienced it firsthand. At work, someone else takes credit for a project you did nearly on your own. Your instinct is to call it out right then and there, in front of everyone. But what happens if you do it in the heat of the moment? You're seen as combative, impulsive. But if you stay quiet, breathe, and wait, you can bring it up calmly later, in private, with proof, letting the truth stand on its own. Your silence isn't acceptance of the injustice. It's the strategy that gives you the upper hand. Or in the family, when someone throws out an unfair comment in the middle of an argument. If you react with anger, the fight escalates. Nobody wins. But if you stay quiet, look them in the eyes, and refuse to play the game, the injustice reveals itself. Your silence makes it clear who's lost control and who hasn't. Let me ask you this. What's the point of being right if you lose your calm in the process? What good is shouting your truth if your reaction becomes the perfect excuse for people to ignore it? Silence, when used wisely, is not cowardice. It's proof that you're not a slave to your impulses, that you don't react just because others expect it, that you choose when to speak and how. That's the difference between being a prisoner of the moment or being the master of your future. Seneca said it clearly. Anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it. The same applies to injustice. If you respond in anger, the injustice drags you down and turns you into what you're fighting against. But if you stay silent, if you wait, you can respond later, firmly, clearly, and without getting lost in the noise. Isn't it curious that the greatest leaders in history, from Gandhi to so many others, used silence as part of their strength? They could have filled the world with speeches, but they understood something deeper. Silence, paired with consistent action, speaks louder than any words. And let's be clear, staying silent doesn't mean doing nothing. Silence is a choice of how, when, and why you respond. Silence is the breath that protects you from yourself and gives your voice real weight when you finally use it. In the end, staying silent in the face of injustice isn't surrender, it's transformation. Because when you stop reacting with rage, when you stop talking so much and start truly listening to what the situation is revealing, you find your real power. The power to respond with intelligence, not noise. The power to act without losing your peace. And if you feel like your time is slipping away, lost in empty words, lost in distractions, maybe it's time to face the question head on. What are you really doing with your life? That other video on your screen is all about that. About how to stop wasting the most valuable thing you have. Watch it. It might just be the push you need to start changing your path for real. 11. Silence cuts the strings of the manipulator. Rumors are like shadows. They show up without warning and always look bigger than they really are. And of course, when someone makes something up about you, your first instinct is to run and explain everything, as if you needed to hold a personal press conference to clear your name. But that's the trap. The more you talk, the bigger the shadow gets. Silence, on the other hand, works like light. It doesn't argue with the shadow. It dissolves it. And if you think about it, you don't need to chase down every person who heard the rumor. Time will show who you really are, and your actions say far more than any speech ever could. The Stoics lived surrounded by gossip and slander. Marcus Aurelius, as emperor, was constantly the target of criticism and conspiracies. But instead of going out to deny every accusation, he wrote in Meditations that to live in accordance with nature and reason is the only reputation that matters. In other words, let your life speak, not your defenses. Epictetus lived this out in his own way. He lived simply, without worrying about those who mocked his minimalist lifestyle. He used to say that if someone spoke badly about him, he'd think, they don't even know everything I've done. If they did, they'd have even more to say. And just like that, he disarmed the rumor. He understood that other people's words don't change who you are. They only reveal what they project onto you. And let's be honest, sometimes rumors are so absurd they're almost funny. Like when someone says you only got where you are because of luck. Sure, luck, plus all those sleepless nights, the effort nobody saw, and the sacrifices you'll never bother to explain. Responding to that would be like arguing with someone who insists the earth is flat. You can try, but you're the one who ends up drained. So what truly kills a rumor? Indifference. Gossip feeds on attention. And when you choose not to give it any, it deflates. It's like a fire that gets no more wood. It burns for a while, then dies on its own. Socrates had it clear with his 3 filters. Before you speak, ask yourself, is it true? Is it good? Is it necessary? Flip those filters around, and no rumor survives. So why waste your breath responding to something that never should have existed in the first place? The danger of over-defending yourself is that you end up living tied to other people's opinions. Today you clarify one thing, tomorrow another, and soon your whole life is just one long loop of explanations. And what happens to what really matters? It waits in the background, but when you choose silence, you get to focus on what does depend on you. Your work, your relationships, your inner peace. Think about it. Every minute you spend clearing up a lie is a minute you're not living the truth that would prove it wrong. It's like trying to scoop muddy water with your hands instead of just letting the sun dry it up. And here's the most powerful part. Silence doesn't just protect your reputation, it transforms you. Because you stop reacting to everything people say and start listening to what actually matters, your own voice, your values, your path. And that changes everything. So next time someone spreads a rumor about you, breathe. Remember, you don't owe anyone a word. Keep moving forward. The one who lives in noise needs to talk. The one who lives in truth can afford to stay silent. And now I want to hear from you. What's the moment when it's hardest for you to stay silent and truly listen? Share it in the comments. Your story might inspire someone else in this community going through the same thing. And if you prefer something simpler, write, "Today I choose to listen more than I speak." That way I'll know you've made the decision to transform your life through the power of silence. 12. Your calm is worth more than their noise. Provocation is like a spark landing on a cloth soaked in gasoline. What do you do in that instant? Let it burn until everything explodes, or take a second to put it out before it's too late. We've all been there. Someone pokes at you with their words, tries to get under your skin, waits for you to lose control. And the biggest mistake is thinking you have to respond right away, as if staying silent somehow means you're weak. But provokers feed off your reaction. They don't want dialogue, they want drama. They throw out hurtful comments, sarcastic jabs disguised as jokes, or unnecessary criticism just to bait you. And here's the key. When you choose to stay silent, you don't lose, you win. Because silence puts out the spark before it turns into a fire. Think of Michelle Obama's story. During her years as First Lady, she was attacked publicly in countless ways, criticized for her appearance, her family, even her every word. She could have clapped back. She could have fought fire with fire. But she chose a different strategy, calm and dignity. "When they go low, we go high," she said. That strategic silence didn't make her invisible. It made her invincible. She knew that stepping into the noise of provocation would only weaken her voice. In the end, it was her presence that inspired millions. And ask yourself, what would have happened if she had answered every attack? The spark would have become a fire. Centuries earlier, the Stoics had already figured this out. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best way to defend yourself is not to behave like them." A simple phrase, yet powerful. The provocateur wants you to lose your cool and respond like them. If you don't, they're exposed. Your silence shows them they have no power over you. Epictetus said it too. It's not what others say that hurts. It's what you decide to do with it. If you don't react, their words stay in the air, ownerless and powerless. Let's bring this down to everyday life. You're at work, presenting an idea, and someone makes a sarcastic comment to belittle you. Everyone turns to see how you'll react. If you snap, if you go on the defensive, maybe you're right, but you've lost control. If instead you stay calm, breathe, and continue, you show something far greater, that your peace is not for sale. Or on social media, where provocation is practically an Olympic sport, one aggressive comment can ruin your day if you choose to respond. But what happens if you ignore it? Exactly. It dies out. Silence is the most unexpected weapon in a world that expects noise. Let me ask you this. Are you really going to give your peace away to anyone who pokes you with words? Is it worth losing your calm just to prove you're right? Because here's the truth. The provocateur doesn't care about truth. They just want to watch you lose it. Humor helps here too. Responding to every provocation is like barking back at every dog that barks at you on the street. You'd never get anywhere. Your path isn't about proving anything. It's about continuing forward while the noise fades behind you. And here's the interesting part. Silence doesn't just kill the spark. It gives you back the control. If someone provokes you, your first move should be to take a breath. Don't answer right away, even if your tongue is burning to respond. That single second is your firebreak. It stops the blaze before it starts. And your posture matters too. When someone throws a hurtful comment, your body naturally wants to tense up, shrink down, or lash out. But if you choose to straighten your back, relax your shoulders, and keep your calm, you send a clear message. You're not shaking me. Picture this. In a meeting, someone throws a joke to embarrass you. You smile calmly, keep your composure, and continue as if nothing happened. That silence? It weighs more than any reply. Remember, you don't have to respond to every provocation. Sometimes the strongest strike is no strike at all. On social media, the person trying to start a fight needs your reaction to keep going. If you don't give it to them, they're left talking to themselves. At home, in an argument with your partner, a single moment of silence can prevent a pointless fight and create space for a calmer conversation later. My friend, true power isn't about reacting to every offense. It's about not letting anyone else decide your state of mind. Provocation is a spark. Your silence is the water that puts it out. When you stop talking so much and start listening, not to the provocateur but to yourself, you begin to transform, because you realize your peace doesn't depend on what others say. It depends on what you choose to stay quiet about. Silence is not absence, it's power. Every time you choose to stay quiet instead of reacting, you're not becoming smaller, you're becoming stronger. That's where you reclaim your peace and take back control of your life. And believe me, my friend, that is what truly transforms you. If you've made it this far, I want you to declare it in the comments. Write, "I choose the silence that transforms me." That way I'll know who the true Stoic warriors are, the ones who made it all the way to the end. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button so you don't miss what's coming next. Also, check the description box. We've left some resources there to help you dive deeper into Stoic teachings. Our goal is to bring you as much value as possible. And if at any point you feel like supporting us so we can keep creating this kind of content, you'll find how to do that in the pinned comment. Now, I invite you to explore the playlist on screen. It's designed to help you face life with greater wisdom and confidence. Click it, and let's keep growing together. Until the next talk, take care, and keep embracing your inner Stoic.